So the OSWAs were revealed last weekend. Ralph and I got together and told everyone what the 6 nominations were for each of the 9 categories. And of course, the inevitable happened, like it always does every year. People reacted positively because they were excited to see some of the nominations there, and not so positively because they saw things that were potentially missing. I'm going to talk about that tonight. I'll cover it. However, I'm going to do more than that tonight. I think there's much, much more interesting things to uncover, because by spending a few minutes examining the online Scotch Whisky Award nominations for 2024, I think it tells us a story about whisky in 2024. That's what I'm going to focus on tonight. I hope you're here to hang out with me, and I'm looking forward to it. I'll see you in a second. Hello, whisky folk. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the vPub, another solo session. Welcome to your Thursday evening, your Thursday afternoon, your Thursday morning, your Friday morning, if you're away in the upside down. Welcome, everyone. It's fantastic to welcome you all here, and it's great to have your company again. Looking forward to a wee session tonight as we kind of unpack a little of what happened last week with the Online Scotch Whisky Award nominations. We squeezed a lot into 3 or 4 weeks, arranging the nominations this year. We tweaked a couple of things, added a bit more extra in. We talked about that at the time. I'm not going to cover that tonight. But in the end, we managed to deliver. And I think in our shortest, quickest session so far for Ralphie and I, we managed to share, I think, a quite interesting selection of whiskies. Now, whether or not that plays out into interesting results in a few weeks' time, or whether everyone's predictions are going to be proved true, who's to say? I'm not so sure. For me, I've already confessed to the point that the most exciting part of the Online Scotch Whisky Awards are those nominations for me. The other exciting part of the Online Scotch Whisky Awards, we love to see who the winners are, and we love to have the interaction from people stepping forward to celebrate their wins and all of that great stuff. There has to be a winner. That's what it's all about. But the other fascinating thing for me is that we've got 9 categories where people, you guys, are entering your own People's Choice suggestions. That gives us a top 10, which for me is fascinating, because it's very, very difficult to pick small amounts, single individual favourites and things like that. I'm just mindful of the fact that I haven't actually checked where we're at on the public poll, so I'm going to pull that up. See how we're doing. We were almost breaking 1,000 when I checked yesterday. Oh, here we go. Okay, so fantastic. So we're well over 1,200 respondents already. So that means that there are 1,200 people out there in the community already in the first few days, just less than a week. They've already decided to log in and place their vote. I have a prediction that we might not see the same amount of interaction and participation that we saw in previous years. I think we're all experiencing that kind of COVID come down type thing with whiskey right now generally. It doesn't matter what metric you want to measure it, but I think there's just a quietening, and people are kind of maybe stepping back from whiskey a wee bit here and there. I don't know. I may be proved wrong there. Actually, I hope I'm proved wrong. It would be wonderful to see more and more engagement and participation every year. But already we've got 1,200, which is a fantastic response, especially given the fact that we've got still another full month of this poll being open. Why have people stepped forward to vote already when there's another 4 weeks to go? People are trying things and still making up their minds. Well, you can go in and lodge your votes now, and you can go back in and edit it at any time. That doesn't mean you're duplicating or doing a second session. No, it means you log back in and you just go through and you adjust and you tweak your suggestions. All of your suggestions, your People's Choice, as well as your votes. You can update everything. So the best thing to do is vote early. And then if you forget, at least you've got a vote in. And if you find that you want to change your mind, it's no problem to go back and do so. So it's fantastic. It's out there. Everybody knows what they are, and there's chatter happening in the background, and I'm glad that it's happening. But tonight, I've been crunching a few numbers. I've been analysing things and chewing things over a wee bit and looking at this stuff. And some of these things are obvious, but I think it's worthwhile to talk about why they've happened and why it might be the case. As I do that, I've got some bottles to share with you tonight, examples and props to use. I'm not going to be sipping much whiskey tonight, although I might uncork 1 or 2 bottles that I'm excited to try. And just kind of give examples of things that are rattling around in my head. This is only ever, I have to caveat all of this, it's only ever my opinion that you're listening to when you hear me talking about these things. I am the same as you. I'm an enthusiast. I'm not a whiskey expert. However, the amount of money I spend on whiskey and the amount of time I spend thinking about it and sipping it and doing all the wonderful things that whiskey allows us to do, I do have expertise in certain areas, but everything is on the side of the consumer. Everything is on the side of the enthusiast. So it's always from my perspective looking at it that way. So if anybody's tuning in from the other side or somewhere in between, if anybody's here from the industry or whatever, just bear in mind that you're listening to an enthusiast tonight, if that's not going to be blatantly obvious. Anyway, before we get into all the wonderful kind of examination, number crunching and holding up bottles and ranting and raving about things, no ranting, no raving tonight, I'm going to jump in like I always do and welcome some of you beautiful whiskey folk and dedicated barflies. James DeGiulio is already in buying me a dram, saying great nominations for the OSWAs. Fantastic, James. Thank you very much for your generous dram, buddy. I hope we're getting to see you in Glasgow sometime soon. Are you coming over this year? Thank you very much for your dram, James. And Tim Donnerpass Whiskey, also in the States, has bought me a dram as well to say, we'll talk about how the public nomination affects the nominees. This year looks like this has matured, or was it just the trifectas are out? No, it did have an impact. It did have an effect. It's difficult to measure how much an effect it had, because when we processed the public nominations and put them into the vote for it to be curated, there was a huge list of prompts already there for the people suggesting their own nominations out of thin air. So that might have led them to in their nominations. And then certainly by the time it got through to deciding what the final 6 was going to be, and all 80 participants were voting on the votes, there was a minimum of 6 public nominations in every single category. So there's no doubt it had an effect. It remains to be seen whether that is a positive effect. I think we can already see it and we can make a call on it right now. Ralph and I have discussed it already, but I think we let this thing play out. We encourage everyone to participate, and then we can kind of have a bit of a debrief when it's finished and work out whether we do the same thing exactly the same way next year, or whether we've worked out a good way to tweak things a little bit. The focus here is this is the Online Scotch Whisky Awards, the Online Scotch Whisky Community Awards is what it is. So we need to represent the community as best we possibly can. That said, all the contributors, all the commentators, all the people who are involved in guiding whisky recommendations like me need to step up and take our place. We need to say, okay, we give guidance on whiskey, we switch on a camera, or we write things, or we podcast, or whatever it is that we do. We're assuming a position of broadcast, of sharing our opinion. We're picking up a megaphone, essentially. And if we're going to justify doing that, I think we have to take our place and we have to be involved in shaping the nominations. That's been the mission of the OSWAs since day one. Involving people and getting people's investment in the front end, I think, is a good move, but we don't want to make it even more of a kind of just popularity vote. I hope that makes sense. Anyway, I'm looking for the orange like I always do. So if you're trying to get hold of my attention throughout tonight, because it's a solo session, hopefully I've got a chance of being able to interact with you a wee bit better. Let's get this mic out the way a wee bit. And I'll be looking for you if you type Aquavite or at Aquavite. Road to Dram Alberto is in saying, good evening, Roy. Great OSWA nomination show. Love the length. For once, I managed to get some proper sleep. Okay, so we kept it a wee bit neater, Alberto. Good for you, fella. We went live at 6 o'clock. So I think we were we were done and dusted well before 8 o'clock, so it was about 1 minute 45 or something. I can't remember now. Julian Rickman is 1 minute, 1 hour 45. I'm not that fast. Julian Rickman is saying, evening Roy Aquavita, looking forward to another great opportunity to learn from our wise community. That's why we're all here. I learn as much as you guys as I do from any other source. Believe me. Benny Fries is in here. Good evening, Roy. Nice to be back live. Rarity for me these days. I'm an old man, me saying I love sleep, love the replay. Good to be here live tonight, though. Fantastic to have you in, Benny. Wonderful to see you, buddy. Hope you're keeping well. I've got a fruit fly flying around the room tonight. I hope it won't appear on camera. I hope not. But it's a wee bit annoying. I guarantee that what will happen is it'll end up in my dram. That's what's going to happen. Tim Powers was in saying, evening everyone, and cheers, Roy. A bit late, been drinking whiskey in the Dornoch Castle Whiskey Bar. What a place. Had to get back for this, though. Tim, you lucky man. I'm more than a wee bit jealous of you. I'll give you a wee tip. There's a bottle in there, a bottle. No, I won't do it. I won't broadcast that. That's spoiling it. I'm not going to say that. Tim, I might message you offline a wee bit. I don't know if you're spending any more time up there, but I know that you'll have been well looked after and you'll have a cracking time. The People's Choice is always my favourite, says Tim. A different Tim, Dorpass Whiskey Tim. Same for me, buddy. Exact same for me. Highland Hamish is in. Good to see you. Greetings from Inverness. Bottle killing the last of an frequent flyers, Brackla 15-year-old after a hard day's toll on the golf course. Maybe you've been caddying and it was genuine toll for you. Slancha to barflies everywhere. Cheers. Good to have you in, Hamish. I hope you're keeping well. Chris Banks is here too. Hi, Roy. We missed the Glasgow gathering for the second time, but have a good reason as we are on Isla for 2 weeks, hopefully meeting some fellow barflies. Let me talk to you about that generally a wee bit. So don't confuse the Glasgow gathering with the Glasgow Festival weekend. It's two separate things. Last year, it was easy to differentiate it because we called it Legfest, because it was the first time that Jimmy Legg was travelling to this land. He's coming back again this year, but instead of putting all the pressure on Jimmy's shoulders and calling it Legfest again, it's kind of an informal Glasgow gathering. We formalised it a wee bit more this year because we're going to meet and gather for a dinner, but rather than have the hassle of going around with the machine and everybody will pay in advance. And the great thing about that is I can book a different restaurant and I can tell them exactly how many people are going to turn up. So on the 28th of September, that's a week on Sunday. It's just about, 9-10 days away. We're all going to gather on a Saturday, and the pot still will start to gather from about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We'll meet and we'll have a wee dram in there and raise a glass together. And then as people start to build, we'll head round to the restaurant for 4:30. This year we're going to Rishi's, which is an Indian and a Southern Indian restaurant on Bath Street. They do fantastic dosas and fantastic curries, fantastic food in general. We're going to gather there at 4:30. And then from there, we're going to walk along it'll be like a big long walking bus thing with maybe a wee pub visit along the way. We'll head along to the Bon Accord and we'll arrive at the Bon Accord from about 7 to 7:30 at night. Exact same as last year. And we'll all gather there. There is a bottle share, but you cannot bring bottles to the Bon Accord. You must get in touch with me first and arrange a bottle in advance. And I agree with the Bon Accord and we pay corkage and we agree with them exactly how many bottles that we are going to bring along and share. Exact same as we've done every other year, and it works perfectly well. And the Bon Accord is going to give us their back kind of little mezzanine section just for us. If you're interested in joining, just come along to the pot still. Just come along to the Bon Accord. Just wander along. We will make you welcome, and we will be looking out for new faces as well. If you're coming along to the dinner, you need to send me a wee email, whisky@aquaviti.com, or get in touch with me through the comments or Patreon or social media channels or the Barflies page. There's an event in the Facebook Barflies page actually for this, and let me know that you're coming and I can book your place. Okay, I'm really looking forward to everyone. Once that's out the way, I'll be able to talk about the Glasgow Whisky Festival weekend because it'll be the only event. Let's not confuse things right now. We're just focused on the gathering, which is about 9 or 10 days away now. Can't wait to see you all again. Okay. hopefully I'll be able to welcome and chat with you throughout the night. Doodle Drama is saying, our recommendations by Max Crichton are found my favourite buy lately in Signatory's 100 proof Ben Nevis. And for best value whiskey, this is my number one on my shelf right now. Arnie, I think you're spot on. And actually, throughout, I don't think I'm telling tales out of school if I was to say that throughout the voting, somebody put forward the Signatory 100 series, but it was a specific expression. And I think that that's one of the things about the OSWAs, is that everything is focused on a single thing, a product or a distillery or a company. We don't have a range. And there's an argument for that, because when you look at Signatory Vintage with that 100 proof range, there's a lot to be celebrated there. They've really done a fantastic thing. Don't know how to handle that in the future. It's difficult. Each of the individual releases are quite small scale. Danny Hebbington celebrating being a member of Barflies for 32 months. He's saying, Even Roy, enjoyed the lock-in on Sunday. Thank you very much, Danny. I was glad you were there. And Wayne Van Tonder is saying that he's celebrating being a member for 2 months. And he's saying, good evening, Boona having 12 in a glass. Cheers. Cheers to you and cheers to everyone. Pedro is celebrating being a member for 17 months and saying, good evening, I'm missing my beloved Deanston 12. It's going to be mentioned tonight, Pedro, definitely. And David Hong is saying, I just want to say hi and we'll catch you on the replay. David, thank you very much for your generous ram, buddy. It's wonderful to always welcome you in here. And if you're here on the replay, welcome back again. And Rob Smith is celebrating being a member of the Barflies for 15 months, saying hello from Missouri. Okay, let's get on with things. The first thing I'm going to do is just have a look and take stock of the OSWAs as they are and share it with you. I don't know what your impression is of the Online Scotch Whisky Award nominations. If you look at it, it seems like, oh, well, there's a handful of nominations there, and same as last year, and same as 2021, and things like that. There's a wee bit of that, especially if you're kind of looking at them as much as I do. So it's really fascinating when you dig deep. Let me share some things with you. Let's change that background to make it a bit prettier. So the 2024 nominations, as obviously 6 in each category, over 9 categories, 54 potential spots, 54 potential nominations. This year in 2024, it's actually spread over 33 companies. Now, to me, that is much higher than I would guess. I think if I was to guess how many companies would be involved, I think you might agree with me there. 33 companies. And I don't think that that's been affected in any way by us removing some companies because of the Trifecta Award, perhaps, but not by much. 33 companies are represented. And I think that's a pretty typical number in the years that we've done it up till now. We're on our 4th year now. So that's the first takeaway there. There is quite a spread of whisky companies involved in the Online Scotch Whisky Awards. Here's the top ones. Here's the ones, let's say, that had more than one nomination. This is where it's busy. Adelphi, they're busy because they've got an entry in value, they've got an entry in best Scotch, they've got an entry in blends, they've got an entry in independent bottler, and they've of course got an entry in distiller as well. Adelphi and Ardnamurchan between them have managed to cover 5 categories. J&A Mitchell are quite similar. They've got obviously best distillery on the go. They've got Cadden Heads with independent bottler. They've got 2 Coquerins in the mix, and they've got a blended malt as well. So they've also got 5 in. Gordon and MacPhail have managed 4, but that's really, really through the strength of Benromach. There's 3 entries for Benromach: best value, best Scotch, and best distillery. Gordon and MacPhail also have a mention for best independent bottler. Thompson Brothers are slightly different. They've got best independent bottler, yes, but they've also got 2 blended malts and a blend. So it's their creativity that's actually getting them the nominations there. CVH Spirits, that's the company that we used to know as, if you've been around for a long time, it was Burn Stewart. More recently, it was Distell. That's the company that owns Bunnahabhain, Deanston, and of course, Tobermory, which is also the Lechick brand as well. They've got 3. We're going to talk about them a wee bit tonight because one of the brands is missing, but they do have 2 Lechicks in the mix. Two brands from CVH are missing, actually. They've they've got a Lechig 10 and a Lechig 18, and they've also got a nomination for best what is it now? Distillery, is it? What's the other CVH one? No, it's the Bunnahabhain 12 cask strength and best Scotch whisky. Beam Suntory have two. Now, this is an interesting one here. Beam Suntory they have the Glengarry 12 in there, but they've also got Hibiki. Japanese whiskey. Compass Box have got two in there, and that's because of Orchard House and because of the Glasgow blend. Loch Lomond Group have got Glen Scotia and Loch Lomond in the mix. Irish Distillers, that's actually owned by Pernod Ricard. So the only mention from Pernod Ricard is through Irish Distillers with the Powers, John's Lane and the Redbreast. And Campari, that's actually Wild Turkey with 2 nominations for Wild Turkey. Let's have a look at the spread. All of these people make up the 33, and all of these guys have a single entry. Artisanal Spirits is SMWS. Brown-Forman is, that's the Jack Daniel's single barrel proof. Cotswolds is their single malt. Jure's is a Craigellachie 13. Diageo, believe it or not, is in the mix, but not through Scotch whisky. That's through Balcones, Texas single malt. Glasgow Distillery for new distillery, of course. Glenallachie is in there with McNair's Lumreek 12-year-old. Heaven Hill is in there with Elijah Craig. Hunter Lane with Ardnahoe for new distillery. Inverhouse in there with Anarch 24. Isle of Arran in there with Lag. Kilhoman in there with the best distillery, sorry. Lochleaf for best new distillery. Morrison's in there for Old Perth blended malt. Mossburn for Torrevake, a new distillery. Nika is in there. What's the Nika entry now? Yoichi, of course. Nika Yoichi. North Star Spirits for independent bottler. Piccadilly's in there for Indian single malt. R&B's in there for Isle of Rassay. Turntable's in there in the blended category with a Bittersweet Symphony. White Peak's in there with Wireworks, their bourbon barrel. Woven's in there with their super blend. And Zudam is in there with Millstone 100 Rye. So that's 33 entries in the OSWAs, quite a spread. But what I take away from this, especially when you see Diageo popping in there for one and only making it one through Balcones, is where are the big six? What do I mean by the big six? First, of course, I'm talking about the top 6 Scotch whisky producers by volume. Let's list them here. We've got Diageo, Pernod Ricard, who own Irish Distillers, of course, too. William Grant, Edrington, Jures, and Beam Suntory. Anthony McGee is saying these slides are showing how diverse the OSWAs are. Love it. It broadens our horizons. Well, I think it's nice to kind of just digest these a wee bit, process them a little bit. But what it actually tells us here, Anthony, is like I say, what's missing. Where are the big six? Well, let's share how many of the nominations they were able to claim. Diageo 1, Pernod Ricard 2, Jures 1, Beam Suntory 2. William Grant and Edrington are looking at a donut. They got nothing. Let's share what those are. Diageo, Balcones, Texas single malt. Pernod Ricard, same as Diageo, nothing for their Scotch. Powers, John's Lane, Redbreast. Jures make it in with Craigellachie 13-year-old. And I think that there's a lot of stuff in the Jures range that could theoretically make it. And look at Altmore, fantastic product from Altmore. There's noises that Aberfeldy's getting a bit of a revamp in pretty exciting direction too, becoming much more natural. I've not seen anything on that yet. It's just rumours right now. I'd love it to be true. And then Beam Suntory's in there with a genuine Scotch entry as well, like Jures, with their Glengarry 12-year-old, and also a Japanese blend in the Hibiki Harmony. So what we're saying here, here's the takeaway. From a combined 54 Scotch malt distilleries that these 6 companies own, only 2 have been nominated. The Glengarry from Beam Suntory and the Craigellachie from Jures. Diageo, Pernod Ricard, Willie Grant's, Edrington. The top 4 have not had a single nomination in the online Scotch Whisky Awards. From the community that drink the product that they make, they haven't been given a single nomination. That, to me, is fascinating. And I think tonight, the general theme in the background is going to be answering why that is. How can that be? 54 distilleries. And it's not all about new distilleries. 5 of those 54 didn't exist in the year 2000, fair enough. We've got Roseil and Ailsa Bay coming along, Brora and Port Ellen. Trying to think of another one that's new. Pernod Ricard, of course, is going to have Dalmarnock as well. But 49 of these distilleries are legacy distilleries. They've been around for a long time. And yet still no nominations. This is not new for 2024 either. Also missing, I think I want to talk about these tonight as well. White and Mackay are missing. And yet they're going to get some airtime tonight because there are things happening at White and Mackay that is genuinely exciting. I've got some stuff to share with you there. Glenmorangie, well, all we need to do is look at what happened with the Ardbeg 17-year-old Renaissance. In the 1990s, they released a 17-year-old, put it out there at 40% ABV and sold it for £30, and it became a bit of a legend. But if you release something in the 1990s, Scotch Malt Whisky Society is just kind of getting traction. Sorry, the Scotch Malt Whisky scene is just getting traction. They released it, I think, in a bit of a clumsy way back then. 40% ABV. They corrected it very quickly when they brought their core range out. Their 10-year-old, starting with their 10-year-old, they brought everything out natural, 46% ABV, unchill filtered, the way that we want it. And the 17-year-old that would have been made from stocks from the 70s and the early 80s was quietly kind of retired. Well, of course, it became a bit of a legend, sprinkling a little bit of nostalgia, and it would do. And obviously, 1970s and 1980s Ardbeg would probably have been pretty fantastic stuff. But now they're bringing it back from the 2000s. If they release it in 2024, it's going to be from 2000 stock, of course. 40% ABV, chill filtered. It even tells you it's chill filtered, and telling you in the press release that they did it for our benefit as fans of Ardbeg. You know, they've done that for us. Right, they've done it for us. Chill filtering it. Look, it's 2024. It's not the 1990s anymore. And that's jarring what's happened there. £29.99, it was released at in 1997. If I go to the Bank of England inflation calculator, that means it's going to be much more expensive today. It should be £57.48. All other things that, you know, notwithstanding, like taxes changing and duties and VATs and all of these things. But the Bank of England calculator suggests £57.48 in today's money in 2024. Well, Ardbeg have just slapped £100 on top of that and charging us £160 for the fans. £160 for 40%. But it's worse than that. If you read the language in the press release, it's really, really clumsy as hell. And what happens? Glenmorangie released their new Tale of edition in the new series and the Tale of. So we've got Tale of Forest, we've got Tale of Cake, and all of these things. The new one's out, non-age statement, and we look at it and it's £76, and the first reaction is, oh, that's quite cheap, because they're being tenderized. But of course, £76 for a non-age statement, special edition whiskey, is not cheap. It's actually expensive. Ian McLeod have also moved their prices out of reach, especially if you go to the distillery. The handfills at the distillery are, you know, your breath is sucked away when you see the prices that they're charging there. That's Tamdhu. It's Glengoyne, of course. Maybe there's an issue because of the amount of capital required, the amount of investment in Rosebank, bringing Rosebank back on stream, I don't know. But if I'll speak about two brands that I love, Tamdhu and Glengoyne, from an enthusiast perspective in 2024, I'm not engaged. I don't think Ian McLeod care, like so many other producers. It's been a long time since I've been engaged with anything from William Grant. Still love the Glenfiddich 12-year-old. It's been around there since the 60s. When it was competing with and cannibalizing the blend market at 40% ABV, low ABV, 43% export strength. It's still doing that today. And so many other people are following that exact same playbook, despite the fact that it's malt whiskey and it doesn't like being presented at 40 and 43% ABV. It causes problems. It clouds. It loses some of its texture, its mouthfeel. It loses some flavour. So they filter it, they polish it up. And Edrington, Macallan, Highland Park, nothing. Nothing. They are also missing. Okay, so actually, let's mention this. We need to talk about who is in the mix. We need to talk about why they're in the mix, and then we need to look at the middle ground in between and talk about the people who fit with this vibe that we have, things that make us select them and put them forward for inclusion in the online Scotch Whisky Awards. Okay. I've got some pricing slides that I want to show you about inflation, if we talk about inflation, where the pricing should be today. Because I think it does play into it. I think it's very much affecting our preferences as a community. But that's where we're at. That's where we have, the legacy companies not involved. You probably are. It's quite remarkable how many new companies, how many independent companies, how many kind of maverick companies are actually involved in the Online Scotch Whisky Awards. And I fully believe that's because these companies tend to be, they have people in charge who are genuine, impassioned whisky fans. They understand whisky and they understand how to represent what they make best. What you make and what you sell, it's very, very easy for these things to be different. There's going to be lots of examples about it tonight. Have I missed anything in the chat? Tim Dornpass was saying it's independent bottles from those distilleries now. That's absolutely true. The distilleries that I've just listed that are missing, if we are engaging with them, absolutely Dornpass Whiskey's right. It tends to be much better product represented from the indies. Alan Smith is saying, I was at Glengoyne a couple of weeks back. Hand fill was £200. People are paying this. I know it's not us. I don't know who the poor sods are, but £200. I hope it was a belter for that money, but in my experience, it tends to be not a particularly well-matured, maybe 12, 14-year-old, 15-year-old maybe. Tobias Locus bought me a dram to say, 48 months being a barfly and got the pleasure to meet you twice in Limburg and Campbelltown. Tobias, that's fantastic. I hope it's not the last time we get to meet, buddy. And I would pick Limburg and Campbelltown as places to meet in the future. But wherever it is, thanks for the dram. Cheers, Tobias. The whiskey in my glass tonight is missing, and we're going to get to it tonight. But let's start. Let's talk about coming from the blueprint of Glenfiddich in the 60s. They're going after Scotch whisky drinkers. That's what their product is aimed at. The blends are out there at 40% and 43%, 42% low ABV. That's where they position the product. The exact same as that. They don't care that it's malt whiskey. They've already got a problem in their hands trying to sell what malt whiskey is and export it and sell it to the world. They've already got that as a problem. So they want it to look and play on a level playing field with the huge global product that is blended Scotch whisky, certainly by the time we come to post-war times. It is what it is. Every other player that comes along after that for years and years and years and years, with very few exceptions, do the exact same thing. Glenfarclas was one of the first with their 105. They brought out a kind of cast strength themed thing, I don't know, 56 years ago now. They were one of the early ones to bring that out. But as the 70s go through and Scotch whisky changes, it falls remarkably out of favour. It becomes a product of fashion. What happens? Scotch malt whisky is still plodding along, doing its thing and slowly gathering a bigger and bigger audience. Thanks to invested enthusiasts, thanks to people in the know, thanks to people who understood what malt whisky could actually be, come into the 1980s. And despite Scotch whisky being on its backside, the cull year of 1983, when we lost countless distilleries to closure, the Scotch Malt Whisky Society is founded. Cask strength, natural, full-flavoured malt whisky. And it was a huge hit, a huge success. People went crazy for it. The independent bottlers who'd been bottling previously, such as Gordon MacPhail, had been bottling at 40% ABV. Slowly but surely that starts to change a little bit. It takes Gordon MacPhail a longer time to pivot and change for that, but Cadden Heads are doing natural product. Other independent bottlers, especially bottlers on the continent, are going fully natural for malt whisky. And again, despite Scotch generally being in the doldrums, Scotch malt whisky climbs and climbs and climbs. By the time we hit the 90s, there's more brands of Scotch malt whisky available as a branded official release than there's ever been in history. The 1988 sees the release of Diageo's classic single malts and gives everybody this idea of a variety of regional different styles. So this isn't just malt whisky and blended whisky. Malt whisky is a very individualistic thing with very definable different flavors. We didn't understand this was a thing in whisky. Maybe at best, we might have known that it was smoky or not smoky, that type of thing. But no, there are regional variations. As time goes on, it develops and it develops and it develops. But still we have the problem, what far too much of it is under strength, which means it has to be filtered because it'll cloud and people don't like to drink cloudy whiskey otherwise. This is quite clear, but if I was just sipping this, it would get cloudier and cloudier. And if I put a wee splash of water in it, there's a good chance if it was cold water, it would turn quite cloudy because I'm diluting it down below its 46% ABV. And it's not been filtered. So all those fats and oils will clump together and cloud a little bit. There's a slight haze in that. It's quite warm in this room. But this is okay. We benefit from this. We benefit from flavor. We benefit from mouthfeel. It took a long time for a lot of producers to step up and start official releases with unchill filtered, non-chill filtered, natural colour, no colour added, statements like that on the bottle. A long time. It wasn't until about 2010, I think, 2009, 2010, that Burn Stewart changed their entire range over from 40% and 43% to 46.3 unchill filtered. Fantastic. And what a transformation it's been. They're brands that's on everybody's lips these days. Bunnahabhain, Tobermory Lechic, and of course Deanston. Has that continued? Not nearly as fast as we'd hoped. There are producers out there that have always done it like Springbank. They've always done it. Well, in modern times. But it's not happened quickly enough because it costs money to do it. If you put something out at 40%, there's a lot more profit to be made than at 46%. So the theory goes. Don't tell me it's about people need it. It's too hot at 46. They need it at 40 to get people into whiskey. I've proved time and time and time and time again that's not a barrier. Lack of flavour is a barrier. ABV, especially if you're exporting at 43 and 46 is the magical number for it not to be chill filtered, there's no difference there. It's negligible. It's negligible. It's not. It's about profit. It's about margins. It's about all of these things. So yes, if there's malt whiskey out there at 40 and 43% ABV, there is. But there are producers out there that are showing that they can do both. Anyway, producers that are on the march that have made interesting turns, interesting evolutions, interesting developments. Let's mention a few. I would have expected somebody to have celebrated Glasgow in the OSWAs in one of the last couple of years. This is the Sand End. There's a Portsoy over there as well, and the 12-year-old. This is a considerable step up. We know how much Rachel Barry hates the use of caramel, horrible caramel colour in whiskies. So we know that these are all natural whiskies, naturally coloured. They would do best to make a bit of a song and dance about it on the label, but such as this. This is owned by Brown-Forman, don't forget. But this one is fantastic ABV at 50.5% ABV. No statement of natural unchill filtered. You would hope that that is the case, that it's unchill filtered at 50. The Port Soy is also a higher ABV, although the Glenglassaugh 12 is 45% ABV. But it's kind of moving in the right direction. And all three bottles, I'm enjoying, genuinely, legitimately enjoying. So we take what we can get. There's progress. If we talk about enjoyment, here's a producer that I cannot fathom how much I'm enjoying it, to the point that if this changed or disappeared, or if I couldn't get this anymore, I would be genuinely heartbroken. This is one of my favorite distilleries today, and it's getting better and better and better all the time. Not everything is presented naturally, but there's a lot of it for us. Fettercairn, you've heard me talking about them time and time again. This is the Warehouse 14. This is a fabulous, fabulous dram. Honestly, all of them are. There's only one that's been a little bit kind of more spirit-driven, spirit-forward. And people that are looking for a bit more cask balance would do well to avoid the Warehouse 2 batch 4. But Warehouse 14, this is batch 1. This is my second bottle. Fettercairn is a wonderfully fruity, light, ethereal, tropical, wonderful thing when it's natural and it's put together well. This did not exist 3 years ago, 4 years ago. This is a new thing. And the natural stuff is affordable, and it's about as transparent as I've ever seen from White & Mackay. Really is fabulous. The prices are not expensive either. Shop around, don't overpay, please. How can it be that White & Mackay are moving in the right direction? White & Mackay. You know, the luxury Dalmore at one end and the stack it high and sell them cheap at the other, make it all mahogany while you're at it. Jura, Tamnavulin. We're frustrated a little bit over the years. And well, honestly, some of the White & Mackay brands have been too much of a punching bag because, as I've already stated, it's not what they make, it's what they sell. And there's a bit of a disconnect in that process sometimes. I'm going to share something with you now that I've been super, super excited about. Genuinely excited. A few weeks back, there was talk of a new Jura. Jura has not had a lot of time on the vPub. And any time that it has had, it's kind of me trying to be pragmatic. If you've ever visited Jura, it is just one of the most comforting, remote, peaceful, calm. Okay, I've only ever been there when the weather's been lovely, I'll be honest. Every single time, the 3 times I've been in Jura, the weather's been idyllic. The calm blue seas, everything. The distillery itself is picture perfect. The setting, it's gorgeous. The whiskey always felt to me like it was mishandled, like it wasn't representative. And it's not that easy to get independent Juras, but when you did, you could verify that that was the case. However, this is a brand new Jura. This is brand new. This arrived today, so I'm breaking a lot of rules tonight. I'm uncorking something that's just been delivered this afternoon. Bottle shock could be an issue, all of these things, but I don't care. I'm just diving straight into this thing. This is the new Jura. 16-year-old perspective number 1. 16 years old. 16 years old. Not cheap, but fair. 70 quid. Being Jura, maybe we're going to expect in the future, depending on the scale of the outturn here, we might see some offers. It might drop in price a wee bit, but this is getting uncorked tonight, and let me tell you why. Hakan is in. Good to see you, Hakan. How are you doing, my friend? Nice to welcome you here. He's saying, Serefi is the Turkish equivalent to Slancheva. Serefi to you. I know I'm pronouncing it wrong, buddy. A beautiful soul that you are. Thank you very, very, very much, Hakan. Serefi, straight back at you, my friend. Cheers. And thank you for your recent support on Patreon too. This is getting open tonight. Why am I so excited to open a new Jura? I've never been excited to open a Jura in the past. 16-year age statement helps. £70 a bottle helps. I'm going to talk about inflation and where we should be on pricing as well in a moment. Let's get a clean glass. Let's get a wee glug. Okay, I should have tilted it that way and got a glug out of it, but we'll forgive it that. Rounded shoulders, right? They don't glug as well. All right. Here's why I'm excited about this 16-year-old Jura. I'm just going to hold it on screen. I cannot believe I'm saying this. Non-chill filtered, natural colour. I don't want this to be a rant about the enthusiast. Oh, it needs to be natural colour. It's a thing that we're consuming. It should absolutely not have any false fake colouring added whatsoever. It should certainly not have caramel E150A in its chemically produced way added without telling us. But more than anything, it's not just a protest about that. Caramel colorant has an emulsifying effect. It flattens whiskey. It takes the edges off whiskey. It makes whiskey smooth. It's a horrendous thing. I've got a bottle of it here, and sometimes I'll hold it up. In fact, I'm going to see if I can grab it just for this. You can just about see this. This has been upright. Sometimes I'll store it on its side, and you can maybe just see that this side is darker than that side. But what I'll do tonight, and you'll be able to see it in future, I'm going to tip it that way, and you'll see how long it takes. It's super, super viscous, right? You can just about see me through that. The crazy thing here is that this glass is clear glass. I kid you not, this is clear glass. The only way I can probably show you, sometimes it sticks on, as you can see the top. No, it's completely black. You can see the base. You can see in the base that it's clear glass, right? It's horrible stuff. I don't even like getting this on my fingers or anything. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it on its side, and I'm going to leave it here for the night and see how long that takes to settle. It's just horrendous stuff. It should not be anywhere near our whiskey, especially something that's paraded as a natural traditional product. And it's not just me banging on about chill filtration either, and texture and mouthfeel and flavour and all of these things. Roy, if I gave you two whiskies, absolutely, you would not be able to guarantee that I or anyone else could definitely tell which has been chill filtered and which has not. That's absolutely true. If you gave me the exact same whiskey that had been cut at some point and carefully managed, good chance I would be able to tell. Doesn't matter. Over my huge overaccumulation of whiskey over the years, my cookie trail of exploration, the vast majority of the whiskies that I've fallen in love with are unchill filtered. Texture, flavor, body, these are real things in malt whiskey. And if you chill filter it, especially if you aggressively chill filter it like so many do, it strips it out. For Jura, somebody at Jura has worked out that they could have a better product if they didn't. And if I read the box on the back, it talks about how the people at Jura are actively involved in this expression. Their first release is a nod to an old favourite of the distillery team, the Jura Zone, which was a 16-year-old. They've taken what they loved best from a classic and added their own stamp. It's matured in American ex-bourbon barrels, part finished in select Oloroso sherry casks. I suspect 16 years ago, I'm not sure. But in much more recent years, there's been a lot of cask investment, a lot of looking after the malt whisky happening within White Mackay generally, I would hope, but certainly at Jura. And maybe we've got a product of that now. They're at the point where they are confident as well that there's an audience out there waiting and going to talk about all we need is for this whisky to be good. But I'm going to argue, no, it doesn't need to be good. This does not need to be my next whisky of the year. We know that this being presented in this way will make it better than it would have otherwise been if it had been bottled at 16 years old and 42, 44, 40%, whatever, and chill filtered and colour added. Before I've even sipped this thing, I am celebrating it because it's going to be better than what came before. Somebody in charge is changing things. Somebody cares. That's going to come out in the product. Let's have a wee nose. Let's coat the glass. This thing it's an uncorking. It's a neck pour. It's unfair to review this whiskey. I'm certainly not going to review it on live camera. There's this wee fruit fly. Come on. Let's have a wee go. Remember a gathering on the 28th. If you're joining, you can just come along to the pot still at 3 o'clock. Super sweet peach and vanilla, man. Fantastic. Stone fruits. Or you can join us at the Bon Accord from 7 to 7:30. We'll be turning up there. And if you're coming to the meal in Bath Street at Rishi's in Bath Street from 4:30, you need to get in touch with me and let me know in advance so I can book you a place. I'd love to welcome you in Glasgow. This has got a gorgeous, sweet stone fruit and really kind of vanilla pastry type note. It's almost like an ice cream syrup. Sweet vanilla pastry. It's like tablet. It's like Scottish sweet is a sugary tablet. It's quite sweet, but there's a nice kind of acidic, fresh stone fruit popping through as well. There's nothing of that kind of odd, tannic, rusty, weird funk that you would occasionally get from Jura. There's a huge donation just come in from Justin Wan. What's happening here, Justin? I think, have you hit a digit too much there? I think you might have, maybe a bit early for this, but please abuse Jimmy Legg so he sheds tears again. We all benefited from it last time he did. I hope you're enjoying that wee bottle of Jimmy Legg's tears. I've not actually seen if Jimmy's in tonight. Normally I catch him. Of course, he's in Scotland tonight, so he might be out partying. He might be genuinely enjoying himself on holiday. No, he is in tonight. Of course he's in tonight. Sometimes I worry that it's not a legitimate vPub. But Justin, that's a tremendously generous, ridiculous donation. I'm a wee bit worried that you've hit a wee digit too much. Buddy, we've met. We've enjoyed some drams together. I hope it's not the last time. I want to raise this wee glass and say thank you for everything, for all your support over the years. But that, I'll make sure that Jimmy Legg is looked after, and I'll try and extract a wee tear. Here's to this Jura 16, and here's to Justin Wan. Cheers. So much fruit. A little dry, a little mineralic, a little metallic on the finish. Ginger and spice as well. Lovely warming ginger. Let's go on again. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Acidic bitterness too. So going from that really sweet syrup vanilla up front, stone fruit, the pastry, ginger, cinnamon, and it finishes on this unique kind of bitter edge. No way that I can score this thing. I don't score until the recycled review, as you know, when the bottle's finished. I would suggest immediately this is the genuine article. This is a real representation of Jura. This has been well put together. There's thought being put into this. It's mature, 16 years old. It tastes it. It's that perfect sweet spot of age statement. It's the perfect sweet spot of price, and it's this perfect sweet spot of presentation. I can't get my words out. I'm so happy. We have another player in the market that we just didn't care about 5 minutes ago. You might taste this and say, Roy, it's bang average to me. Roy, this is not going to be my favorite whiskey. Roy, this isn't going to be... This is better than it ever was. I felt confident that that would be the case before I even sipped it. It's moreish. There's that lovely dry kind of acidity, bitter minerality, coastal. Right on the finish. Not picking up any peat smoke. There's nothing smoky about this. To me, I suffer from peat blight. If it's mildly peated, if it's lightly peated, I'm very unlikely to pick it up. It would have to be when it's close to there's hardly any liquid in the glass, and you occasionally you'll pick up a bit of peat smoke from the glass. If this is peated, it's very likely. I think this is maybe unpeated liquid. Genuinely wow. Jura, welcome on board. We've missed you. Craig McGinn, good to see you in, Craig. Evening, Roy. Enjoyed one of the distilleries mysteriously omitted from the OSWAs with a Bruichladdich Micro Provenance cask 11-year-old. A cracking dram, packed full of flavour. Highly recommended. I've loved playing with, and I've only ever had one bottle of the Micro Provenance. It was one of the red wine casks years ago. It's one for the Bruichladdich aficionados, I know. Glad you're enjoying it. We're going to talk, Craig, about Bruichladdich tonight. I'm still trying to go over Justin Wan's generosity. That's HK dollars. I think it's about £50. Aye. Okay, if it's whatever I know from a big bright red banner, it's a very, very generous dram indeed. Sugar Kitty, it's good to see you in, and it's good to have you looking after us as well. Excess to Scotch is saying this will be the first time in a long time that I will try a Jura. Yeah, you have never let me down. Okay, if somebody's going to go running out and spending their £70 on this Perspective 01 Jura 16, no, the only caveat I'll say is this is a neck pour, first sip of it. But I'm into it. I'm big into it. Finally Done is saying, so no Jura cabbage water. There was always kind of a weird funk, right? And I'm certain that it was just about just a real lack of casks, or cask investment probably, rather than cask management. Just, I am getting nothing cabbage water from this Finally Done. But I am getting a firm, expressive, unique, interesting whiskey. It's definitely got a really quite drying, slightly acidic, bitter finish, like so many of the whiskies that I end up loving. I love it when it's almost like that slightly drying finish, a wee bit of acidity, a wee bit of bitterness on the edge, just to kind of pique your curiosity that has you going back for another one. Greg's Whiskey is saying, do we have an Alleluia then, Roy? I think that's exactly the word for it, an Alleluia. Graham Young is saying that this is that Justin, always talking to Justin, saying this is so nice. Doodle the Dram is saying, something I've learned is that there are so many wonderful and well-presented drams out there that are hardly advertised or visible. I'm having an Old Ballantrae tonight and it's fabulous. Yeah, Arnie, the Old Ballantrae has appeared on the vPub a couple of times in the past. The most recent one, I think, was their 15-year-old. Very interesting product from Angus Dundee. And again, I don't think it's a huge outturn. I don't know how many markets it makes it to, but I'm glad you're enjoying it, Arnie, and it's good to have you in. Justin Wan is saying, guys, don't overreact. I guarantee there will be similar super chats next Thursday. I'm just an attention seeker by jumping the gun, and Jimmy Legg, be warned, Aquaviti will beat the tears out of you. Gordon Fraser is saying, Mon the Jura. Gordon is very, very local to Jura, so he's shouting for one of his, well, let's say island distilleries. It would still take him about 6 hours to get there, maybe more. Max Kreitner is saying, cue the George Frederick Handel Messiah, hallelujah. Yeah, I do feel a wee bit like that. Crocs and socks, sipping all natural Jura. Get in, says Danny Keenan. So it's been exposed that listen, I'm in my own house, I'll do what I like. The truth is, Crocs are the bin shoes. The shoes I wear to go out to the bin at the back door. But occasionally, especially during summertime, I'll just keep the Crocs on, regardless of whether I'm wearing a pair of socks or not. And I'm in my own house and I can do what I like. And by the way, that photo that was taken of me in here while they were filming, nobody asked if that photo could be shared. Not that I would have stopped them sharing it, or that I would have tried to control or vetted the image whatsoever. Quite enjoy my Crocs and socks occasionally. Hellswood is saying, let's hope that they're testing the water somewhat with that. There's more to follow in the same vein. Well, I think it has to be successful, right? And I suspect the pricing is not going to be that much different, but Jura was always heavily discounted. The specs are good and your palate is like mine, so I put my money where your taste is, says Excess to Scotch. Good man. I think we'll both enjoy it together then, buddy. Jimmy is saying it could be quite interesting to compare this new Jura with the old Duraxon 16-year-old. The old Duraxon, you know, it was okay. It was one of those ones I quite enjoyed, but I didn't fall in love with. And I never knew why. It was always inexpensive as well. I think the Duraxon, you used to be able to buy it for about 40 quid, if I remember well, Jimmy. And finally, then is saying, I'm really glad, as I always thought the spirit of Jura was let down by bad cask management. Superstition was a good dram. Well, Superstition, it was easy to let it be a good dram. I remember buying a bottle of Superstition for £17. That's not where single malt should be. That is where blends should be. Single malt is, and this is the geek and the enthusiast, and this is the passion and everything. Single malt should be preserved. Shouldn't be abused, shouldn't be over-egged, it shouldn't be oversold, but it should be not ever undersold. And if you're going to undersell it, if you're going to sell it for 17 quid, you don't have a lot of money to invest in casks. Okay. Over the moon, genuinely jazzed and excited about that. Scapa is on the horizon. Norway recently saw a release of Scapa, 16 years old, all natural, non-chill filtered, natural colour on the label. Now, this is on the back of Pernod Ricard's Scapa, putting out the Skiren at 40% ABV and the Glanza at 40% ABV. And they were just flat, dull, boring whiskies. And I guarantee you, Scapa is not a flat, dull, or boring malt. Anybody that remembers the old Gordon MacPhail distillery labels of Scapa, sublime whiskey, even though that Gordon MacPhail often put it out at low ABV. But it was handled much better than the stuff that came out in recent times from Pernod Ricard. A lot of us have fond memories of the Scapa 14-year-old. I do too. It was one of my gateway whiskies way back in the day. And then the 16-year-old came along as well, which was widely celebrated as being one of the best 40% ABV whiskies ever released. We never saw the likes again. Maybe this new 16-year-old, and it's interesting that these are 16-year-old whiskies I'm speaking about, can breathe new life into Scapa for all of us. Blair Stevenson is celebrating being a member of the Barflies for 14 months. Good to have you in, buddy. I hope you and Annie are doing well. Glad to see Jura. My dog's name was Embarassi. My dog's name was Embarassi. Struggling to make the connection, fella, but you can explain it to me in a Glasgow Whisky Club night. Maybe you're going along to the trip to Glasgow Distillery in the weeks ahead. Danny Keenan is saying, celebrating being a member for 19 months. He's saying 19 months of whiskey joy with the best people. Danny, you're very much part of that. A pleasure to have met you as well recently, and I'm looking forward to the next time. I hope you make it to Glasgow again soon. One Glassman, that's Warner, my pal from the States. Good to see you in, buddy. Saying, hi, Roy. Is the notion of value percolating too much into other categories? Is pricing causing otherwise great bottlings like Bruichladdich 18 to be ignored? Love to hear your thoughts. Cheers. You've been around me long enough, Warner, like so many of you in here, that everyone starts to kind of read my mind and know what I'm going to speak about. You know what's coming up in the horizon. You know what's going to be talked about tonight. Anyway, it's going to take me all my... Look at how quickly I've got through that wee dram. It shows you that I'm enjoying it. Let's move on to other things I am a wee bit disappointed about. We've spoken about those that are evolving, those are changing, those that are making positive steps. And these are positive steps. 16 years old, all natural from Scapa and Jura, Aberfeldy on the horizon. I've talked about Glenglassaugh. I've talked about the huge march forward at Fettercairn. This is fantastic stuff for us. Fantastic. By the way, I should just say that just because you put something out at natural colour, no natural colour added, unchill filtered, put an age statement on there, 46% above ABV. I mean, you still have to, the casks still have to be fantastic. People are still going to sit down and analyse and critique these things. I think what happens when we see the presentation being put forward like that, it instantly conveys a message that people are caring, that people are putting this forward. So don't necessarily take the whiskey and analyse it against its neighbour, what it's sitting alongside on the shelf. Is this the best whiskey this month, this year, this whatever? Instead of comparing, remember how subjective whiskey is, and appreciate it and analyse it for the best example of being what it can be. That's what's been so frustrating about so many distilleries in the past. And I guarantee you the reason that 54 of our distilleries from the top 6 producers have managed 2 nominations in the OSWAs this time around is for that very reason. Because it's put out there not to be the best that it can be. It's probably made to be the best that it can be and then goes through a process of making that worse, filtering it, potentially adjusting the colour of the thing artificially, putting it out at a lower ABV that doesn't represent the liquid at its best. We hear the stories all the time, how the thing that's put together by the blender or the people that are making the stuff and the thing that makes it out in the bottle, there's a disconnect. Anyway, what's notable in 2024, and I'm sure that most people would have turned up for an hour and would have turned up thinking that the whole vPub tonight was going to be about this. But it's not. But I'm going to make mention of the things that I am personally most troubled by not seeing in the Long Scotch Whisky Awards this year. Major Nut has bought me a dram. Thank you so much, my friend. A wee contribution to the gathering. Hope to join one time or at least coming over and meet some of you. Learned so much through the community. Cheers. Off to bed. Catching the rest on replay. Major Nut, I remember you're in Scandinavia, aren't you, buddy? I hope you rest very, very well, and I'll raise this wee drip of Jura to you, and a good night's sleep. Thanks for joining us tonight, and welcome back now that you're picking it up on the replay. Good to see you, Major Nut. Okay, the obvious one for me, and the one I was most disappointed about, and not necessarily just this expression, but no mention of the distillery, no mention of the brand whatsoever in any expression. This is my beloved Deanston. I say beloved. Why? Well, if you've been watching Aquavitae for long enough, since 2017, you've seen me beating a Deanston drum. And I do not declare that this is the best whiskey in Scotland. I do not suggest that everyone should love this whiskey, but I love it so much that I tear through the liquid and replace the liquid. I don't wait for it to go on sale. I don't buy it at its cheapest or whatever. If I see the bottle at this, Deanston 12 is a staple for me. It is a perma-shelf bottle. Let's get a wee drop in the glass. I know that there's probably a much bigger dram in this bottle than is suggested, so I don't need to drain it. I'm going to keep it light. Yeah, there's still another dram left in that bottle. Let's see. Yeah, there's a good 25 mil, maybe even 30 mil in that. Always it's a wee bit surprising. So sad to see another bottle go, but I know, and this has been on the shelf for a long time, this. Natural colour, unchill filtered, 12. How do we know that Deanston 12 is natural colour? Well, if you've ever seen two batches of Deanston on the same shelf, you'll notice bottle to bottle colour variation. And it's really something to be celebrated. Now, it's up to you whether you buy the darker colour or the lighter colour. For me, I'm ambivalent. I like to taste both. My preference is always tends to fall with lighter whiskies in recent times. This is ex-bourbon matured. It's all coming from the same recipe, the same casks. The colour is incidental. We have to remember that if master blenders, if whiskey makers make it to a consistent flavour recipe, the colour should be incidental. It's asking a bit much of them, not just to match the quality and the flavour consistency, but also match the colour too. That's where the temptation of artificial colour comes into things. We should celebrate malt whiskey as a very natural product, and we should educate the marketplace, the customer, casual, invested, and everywhere in between, that colour variation is part of the celebration of the whiskey. And I know that people say, oh, it tastes different, we taste with our eyes and things. It's very, very true. And it's the same on any other product that has colour variation. I know. But these are natural products. This is not something that's made on a factory production line to be the same every single time. Gorgeous. It's actually got a lovely floral puff to it tonight, like sweet orange blossom. Very orchard even. And every time I pick this up, it's going to be a wee bit different. Elegant. Lovely mouthfeel. Gorgeous Deanston. My problem with Deanston, my problem with Burn Stewart Distell CVH spirits, the core range kicks it out of the park. Some of your special editions are wonderful. You're able also to produce fantastic mass market, budget focused, like the Sinclair series from Licheg. Not an age statement, Rioja cask, but the value on that thing is just fantastic. The problem is when you go the other end, especially if it's a distillery exclusive, if it's a small batch, even if it's something that you're selling just to the invested fans that signed up to be fans, you're overcharging. You're overcharging. And I wonder if that is having a negative impact. We don't see it quite as much on Legic, but it's certainly happening at Bunnahabhain. It's certainly happening at Tobermory. It's certainly happening at Deanston. We love the core range stuff. When you release these special editions, we understand that we're going to have to pay a premium on small scale, much more exclusive, rarer, precious liquid. We understand it's going to be quite a bit more expensive, but your pricing in recent times, I think, could tarnish the entire range going forward. And that would be heartbreaking for me because of how much I love the product that comes from those three distilleries. Let me give an example. Here's a fan favourite. In fact, it was nominated last year. This is Bruichladdich Classic Laddie. Now, if you're talking about natural whiskey, say what you like about Bruichladdich. They know how to put together a natural whiskey. Everything is natural. Everything is transparent. Everything is, I mean, this is a B Corp distillery. I think there's only one other, and Nicknayan is the only other B Corp distillery in Scotland, which is a shambles to my mind. I think that all of the distilleries should be shooting for something of that status. 50% ABV as well. No age statement on this. There's been an 8-year-old Classic Laddie, a 10-year-old, of course, back in the day, but no age statement. It might creep back at some point in the future. But there's some daft things happening at Bruichladdich. I want to show you inflation. Let's bring in these slides again. Here we have the Bank of England inflation calculator. Let me take this banner away. Pre-COVID, 5 years ago, back in 2019, the good old days when everything was affordable. Let's take Glencadam 10, £32 a bottle, okay? This wee bottle that I opened up the stream with tonight. In 2019, that was costing us £32. And in 2024, Bank of England tells us it should be £40. Bang on. Some places you'll pay 45 for Glencadam 10, some places you'll pay 38, but generally speaking, we're still able to pick it up in the order of £40. Now, what I will say very, very quickly is that this is based purely on an inflation calculator. So all other taxes and things we're just leaving out of this. There has been duty increases and things that are much more local, depending on the market where you are, tariffs and all of those horrendous things. I'm speaking purely from a perspective of inflation over the last 5 years. It's been a global phenomenon, of course inflation has, but I'm speaking to you from the perspective of the Bank of England's calculator. So that's our kind of entry-level product, 32 quid, it's now 40 quid. Glencadam fits with that, and so does Loch Lomond 12s, the entire series, so does Deanston 12, so does so many other products that we can pick up. What about something a bit more premium, something that we used to pay £40 for, that we should now be looking to pay £50 for? Springbank 10. Absolutely. What about something about £55 back in the day? We should now be paying £69 for. That's when we're in the realm of the Jura 16s or Speyburn 15s or something that's a little bit older. And that's exactly spot on. What about the more premium stuff, the 18-year-old stuff? Well, back in the day, you know, the Speyburn 18s, the Deanston 18s, the so many other 18-year-olds that were in the order of £75, they should be hovering around £94. I'm going to argue with you today that there are still Speyburn, Deanston, some other 18-year-olds that are less than that £94 mark today. The problem is that so many 18-year-olds are double that. Nonsense. And £100 back in the day, if we were really, really treating ourselves, So we're looking at easy maths here of about a quarter extra, 25% increase based on the last 5 years inflation, which is pretty horrendous, but it is what it is, and this is a global phenomenon. So with that in mind, that's what we're looking at, okay? My Brookladdy 18 that I owned back in the day was about a 60 quid bottle. Now, it's not 2019, I'm going back much, much further than that. It was quite expensive, kind of beige, kind of cream labelled thing. Wasn't the best whiskey I had, if I'm honest. Didn't love it. Took me a while to get through it, but I wish I still had that bottle now, because it'd be worth a hell of a lot more than it was to me back then. The new Brookladdy 18 came out, and I don't know what the level of this bottle is, but I know it's lighter than the last time I opened it. £150. It's a shame. It is a real shame. And yet, confession time. I had the privilege to put forward a nomination for the Online Scotch Whisky Awards in 2024 for the best Scotch whisky, and this is what I nominated. This liquid is fantastic. Fantastic. It's difficult for me to recommend to anyone and everyone, because I don't know many friends, apart from whiskey friends, who would comfortably pay £150 for a bottle of whiskey. Brookladdy fans, whiskey fans, elegant, delicious, gorgeous, well-balanced, excellently put together whiskey fans, I can recommend this to you. However, it came out at the same time as what was the age of a 30-year-old, was it? I'm trying to remember now the age, but it came out at the exact same time as a super premiumized £1,500 a bottle, £1,500 a bottle release, 10 times more expensive than this, along with all the messaging about how they were going to redefine luxury. These were halo bottlings, and it made everyone a wee bit twitchy. It seemed sketchy to us that our maverick, edgy distillery, that were getting better and better and better as the years ticked by, makes sense, doesn't it? Suddenly switched. Would Kin have already been given signals with the price of Octomores? Would Kin have already been given signals with the price of the exclusive stuff, the smaller batch stuff? But honestly, we're quite happy to go out and pay £80 or £90 for a beer barley. We're happy to pay a wee bit more of a premium for an Islay barley, Scottish barley, all of these things. We understand these concepts. But when your core range comes out and that happens, that sends a message. I think that Brookladdy they've been put on the naughty step a little bit by their own fans. Classic Laddie is still affordable. Port Charlotte 10 is now approaching. I mean, it's tough to pick this up for less than £59 now. We'll forgive it. 50% ABV, gorgeous liquid, and arguably the guardian of Islay today. However, all the cool stuff, all the special stuff, all the tasty stuff, it's like they've got their invested core fans, the people that really love it, and they're going to take them for every penny that they've got. That's not the case, but that's the feeling, that's the sense, that's the kickback, that's the reaction, that's the freeze-on, that's the zeitgeist, that's what's happening amongst the fan base. They're getting a bit twitchy about how expensive Brookladdy are becoming. And I think that they will see in certain markets, in certain places, a reaction to that. They will be placed on the naughty step. Greg's Whisky Guide is saying Brookladdy 18-year-old is around 180 to 190 euros here, mind you. Well, it's even worse, Greg. It's even worse. And Donald Pass Whiskey is saying that's what I nominated too. It's my People's Choice vote too. So good. I mean, it's a rare thing in the mod to have a whiskey that's that good as that Bruichladdich 18. However, it is constantly caveated by me by the price. Even if that was 120, that bottle would be replaced by now and that bottle would be finished. But now I'm precious because I'm not going to replace it at 150 and it's probably going to get more expensive. The Port Charlotte 18 came out at 175. Jimmy Legg is saying Octomore has never left the naughty step. True for me too, Jimmy. True for me too. I remember the Whiskey Rev paying £110, I think, for his Octomore back in the day, and I was horrified. I've never had listen, there were some gorgeous Octomores on the shelf when we visited Bruichladdich, and I was so tempted. If I wanted to bring a souvenir back from the island, it was going to be one of those kind of souvenir bottles of Octomore. But I was caught up in the moment, and I managed to have a word with myself because the cheapest one on the shelf was £145. Single-digit age statement as well. In fact, it might have even been non-age statement, that one. Sandro is in. Good to see you, Sandro. He's saying, Ciao Roy, Campari just bought 30% of the holding that owns CVH. They're very bullish on Deanston, I was told. Well, Campari, I'm not sure it's something to be worried about. I didn't realize it was as much as 30. I thought it was less than 15%. Campari own Wild Turkey, for example, and that seems to be doing okay. Glen Grant, yeah, Glen Grant has always been focused on the European market, specifically Italy, a little bit of France, and what they want out of Glen Grant. It's not always been best represented, I have to say. It's going to be interesting to see if that has anything, though, with such a small percentage buy-in. I don't know what the deal is. I'm not kind of business-minded. Greg Stafford is saying just got one for just shy of 300 Canadian. So he's talking about Bruichladdich 18 for 300 Canadian. That's about the same price as here, Greg. You've done okay on the price there, but I'm curious to hear whether you think it's worth it. The Alchemist, Big Sevy's in. Good to see you, buddy. The 30-year-old laddie was a shambles compared to the 18 Aquavitae. Get it in the sea, eat it in the sea, to quote my son Xander. Sevy, I'm going to raise this wee glass. Sevy, I don't know if you were in earlier, but there's a Jura out, and you might just be quite surprised how good it is. I'll need to bring it along to the gathering. Looking forward to seeing you in a wee while, buddy. The Ginger Genius is saying, yet in the UK, the classic laddie is always discounted. It's often discounted. That's true. 50 quid is the RRP, I think, for classic laddie. Just in from a Kilhoman tasting in Manchester. Like what I'm hearing about pricing. Naughty steps, says Gabriel. Good to welcome you in, buddy. I hope your tasting was fantastic. Well, I'm enjoying the whiskies that I have on hand, and I'm glad I bought them. I'm glad I paid the money for them. The question comes, would I put it forward in the OSWAs, and would I repurchase it? Would I go and buy it back again? I'm enjoying my Bruichladdich Classic Laddie. I think it's okay when it comes to the price. I think Classic Laddie has got a lot better in recent years. The 18-year-old, £150 is too expensive, but I've loved every sip. Everybody I've poured it for has acknowledged that it's a fantastic whiskey too. And yet, we continue. Here's a gift to me from my pal Greg Swartz. He brought this as a wee present for me. This is a Ben Riach that I've never tried before. Now, interestingly, I've got a Ben Riach up there that I'm enjoying quite a lot. It's their malting season. Far too expensive, but I bought it for a specific reason because I wanted to taste the difference between general Ben Riach that we can buy and something that's fully 100% malt floor, in-house maltings. I believe that in-house floor maltings has got a lot to do with flavour. Anyway, enjoying that, but it's expensive. This is the cast strength version, but is not expensive. Not expensive at all. The one I really want to open, I'll have delivered in the coming days ahead. Ben Riach have a 16-year-old out there priced at as low as £59. I think 70 is the recommended. They have it at on offer in lots of other places. And there was one place I spotted today when I was searching around on prices that had it as low as £59. 16-year-old malt whiskey. But, and here comes the caveat, Benriach for the 16-year-old have brought it out at 43% ABV. Now, let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. There's an opportunity here for it to be very good whiskey because Benromac 15-year-old, we rave about. We love the stuff. It's 43%. It's not what you make, it's what you sell. So they've chosen to go the route of 43%, the same as Benromac. Benromac's nominated for an OSWA at 43% with a 10-year-old. At that price point, a brand new release from Benriach, who's owned by Brown Forman, and they've chosen to put it out at £70 and less. This is an encouraging sign. Maybe some people, not everyone, there are still idiots out there, but some people are standing up and realizing that the market is not interested in premium. We're just bored. We're bored and we're skint. We're wanting to put our money elsewhere, and we're doing that. And you need to change your mind. You need to shake up the canvas. You need to do a Signatory. You need to do a Thompson Brothers. You need to do a Jura. You need to do a Glasgow, a Fettercairn, all of these examples of these better, improving, delicious whiskies that are still in our price reach. Did you see that we finally have Bottle Chasers whiskey, our Ardnamurchan cask, turned 3 years old this week? Buddy, I didn't even mark the date. I didn't even realize that that was the case. However, my wife has booked us a break a bit later in the year, and it just so happens that the accommodation is within an hour's hurl of Ardnamurchan. Would you like me to swing by and pick up a sample from our cask? Very generous dram from Ted Brooks. Roy, as always, wonderful vPub. Everyone vote in the OSWAs. Ted, I'm going to give you that a big love and thanks. Absolutely. I encourage everyone to go along and have a wee vote in the OSWAs. In fact, what I should do right now is go in and get the link for you. So it's very, very easy for that to happen. Just copy that. Swing it back in here and encourage everyone. Vote now, please. Please vote now, because I guarantee you that if you, if you forget, your vote's lodged and it's in. And the thing that we're just as interested in is the people's choice. It should only take you 2 minutes. You log in with the same Google account that you log into YouTube with, or your email or whatever it may be. Just log in, click, write a couple of suggestions if you're inspired, skip the categories that you can't meaningfully contribute, and you're done. And you can always go back and edit. Lynn booked accommodation near Ardnamurchan. That sounds spurious. Listen, we booked it very, very late. There wasn't a lot of choice. If you're going to the Highlands of Scotland, my only thing is to suggest that it's someplace pretty and west is best. And she came back and she said that she'd booked in Strontian. And I know I've passed Strontian on the way to Ardnamurchan. So I was like, oh, that sounds good. So we're going up. Did you see the 150,000 84-year-old hubcap from Macallan 84 went on ballot this week? Yes, I did see it. I did see it, buddy. Hubcap, that's an interesting take on it. It was a hole. It was a big donut, a big zero. It's just a kind of whole new, just how naive, how ridiculous are these people? They're going to just, it's made from barley and water. We need to remember this. It's meant for drinking. It's meant for drinking. Okay, so before we finish up, and I'm going to run through these very, very quickly, because I have one or two things that are my own, let's call them personal favorites, things that I would have loved to have, I would have got some excitement to see these represented. One of them's already been mentioned, and it's difficult for the OSWAs to accommodate this range of whiskies faithfully. This happens to be a Glenord. You've seen me share a Glentalkers. You've seen me with a, struggling with speech tonight, apologies. You've seen me with a Linkwood. You've seen me with a Ben Nevis. Listen, these are typically £45 for age-dated, fully natural, 100 proof single malt Scotch whiskies. 100 proof meaning 57.1% ABV. This Glenord is ex-bourbon barrel. At first they came out, it was all sherry cask. Now there's some demand for bourbon cask stuff too, and it's exciting to see that. It was offered in the OSWAs in the process. Not enough people voted for it, and it never made it out. And I suspect the reason for that was that everybody's kind of shooting all over the range. Some are going for a Ben Nevis or a Glentalkers or a Linkwood or whatever it may be. So you're not getting that same kind of everyone trying the same thing. And I think that's why it never made it through. Whereas if the 100 proof series would have been a range, guarantee it would have made it through. It could have made it through in a number of categories. I think it's a fantastic range of products. Here's another one that I think deserves to go through these days. We've got Inverhouse whiskey in there in the shape of Annock 24. In the past, we've had Annock 18 in there as well. I don't think there's a lot from Old Pulteney right now to really set the heather alight. Unfortunately, Balmenic remains a wee bit ignored. But we've also got Balblair up there in the Highlands as well. This is a wee bit of a forgotten distillery, I suspect, and I think it was the rebrand a good 6 or so years ago that really they've struggled to get back from. Now, they're probably quite a successful product, I don't know, but certainly it was something that was growing in the excitement of the enthusiast, and then suddenly the rebrand just kind of killed that dead. And it wasn't because we didn't like the aesthetics or the presentation had changed. It was all to do with price. But what's interesting is that the price on the Balblairs has stayed pretty static over the years of COVID. It's not gone up as much as you would imagine. And it's meant that its peers have caught up with and overtook it. So now we've got affordable Balblair 12 that's all natural, and affordable Balblair 15, affordable 18, etc. Look, it gets a bit more expensive like everything does up at that end, but it's not something that we should be discounting. Also, something I want to mention is that it's difficult for brands to make it through the OSWA, and I don't mean independent bottlers, and I don't mean distilleries. I mean the things that are in between. I'm speaking about things like Port Askaig. When Islay is difficult to afford and it's getting out of hand and it's getting crazier and crazier, the one I'm showing you here is the cask strength. This is 59.4% ABV. We suspect it's Kalila. It tells us the transparency here is fantastic. First fill, toasted bourbon barrels, 25% of the makeup. Refill American oak hogshead, 75% of the makeup. Gorgeous liquid. I have this much left in it. And despite all the Kalila that I've got on the shelf here, this is the one I'm reaching for. The 17-year-old is even better. It's a wee bit pricey, the 17-year-old at £120, but that's much cheaper than any other 17-year-old high ABV naturally presented Islay that you're going to get your hands on right now. I would love to see Port Askaig or a product that's faithfully represented like that make it into the OSWAs in the future. But before we go into the quiz at the end tonight, I have to share with you the best value, I think, sherry cask whiskey right now that's an official bottling from a regular producer, and it's a new distillery. I admit I've only had 2 bottles from the same batch, the exact same batch. I don't think this is core range. I don't think it's going to stay core range. I think it might just be a special edition. I'm not sure. I should have checked. But this is from a new distillery. And this is lovely liquid. Lovely liquid. It is presented at 46% ABV. It's fully natural. This is sherry cask maturation from a brand new distillery, and they have never had a mention in the OSWAs. This expression deserves it. This is Clydeside's Napier. This is fantastic sherry matured whiskey. This is what's going in my last clean glass tonight. Just to make sure I'm not giving you a bum steer. This is not going to be easy for you guys to get a hold of, but I hope that it makes it into better distribution. I hope that more people are getting to taste how good this whiskey is. They've managed to get themselves some really, really good sherry casks. I suspect it's what's done this. It's brought their whiskey. I think this is actually an age-stated one. There's an age on this. I think it's 6 years old. Maybe it doesn't say on the bottle. Go on the website, I think it's saying 6. No, it does. 6 for over 6 years in Oloroso. So this is an age stated. £50. New distillery with an age statement on it. The Clydeside have got 6-year-old whiskey now. Fig. Prune juice. Tobacco leaf, tobacco. Red, sweet jam, plum jam. I don't know what spice. Let's go with a kind of darker. Ginger, cinnamon, but not really. Something along those lines, like a nutmeggy thing. Nutmeg, a mix of those. It's spiced. It's gently spiced. Warm cooking spices. Let's go with that. Come on. Come on. There's youth to this compared to the other things I've been sipping tonight. But there is no way that you'd pick this up and go, it's a 6-year-old whiskey. This is a natural, vibrant, clean sherry cask whiskey. Leagues and leagues and leagues ahead of the first ever Clydeside I tried. Leagues ahead. I've got a bourbon cask from them down there, a handful from the distillery. It's just a fantastic thing. This is just... We've got Clydeside, we've got Glasgow, we've got Lochlee, we've got Kingsbarns, bang. We've got Lindores, bang. Spent the whole night and I've hardly mentioned Ardnamurchan, the fantastic inaugural from Ardnahoe. The list goes on and on and on. Torrevik, still to show us their colours. Rassi, stronger and stronger and stronger every time. The OSWAs in the future have to represent these times that we are living in. And I suspect that unless we see more of those big six producers, those legacy producers, moving in the direction of the ones I've given you the examples of tonight, they are still going to not ever have an opportunity to feature in future OSWAs. And that might mean nothing to them. They don't care, of course not. But I think the OSWAs are like a little mirror held up to the community. Remember those aficionados? Remember the ones in the know that helped Scotch malt whiskey climb out of the doldrums back in the 70s, 80s and 90s? That's the people I'm speaking about. I think the OSWAs is just another way for them to highlight how they're feeling. What they say is obvious to us. Sometimes there's things to be read in what they don't say. And I'm sorry that some of them didn't appear this time, but I think we should focus less on the ones that probably just didn't appear this year. Brookladdy, Deanston, Glencadam. And we should be focusing more on the messaging behind the ones that are never likely to appear. And how heartbreaking it is when these companies are in charge of 50% of our Scotch malt whiskey production by volume. In fact, a lot more than that. That's the state that we're in. George P has gifted some Aquavitae memberships out there. Thank you very much for your generosity, George. That's very kind of you. 5 people have managed to sign up as a barfly and keep the vPub ad-free, as well as getting access to all those colourful emojis and things that we like to use. Thank you. Graham Young has bought me a dram. Cheers to you, dear barflies. Just counting the minutes until Claudette, Kathleen, Gino and I reach Glasgow. Hugs are incoming and laughs are building as we speak. I know that Graham, Claudette, Gino and Kathleen are all going to be making the gathering, so we'll see them in Glasgow soon. And Stevie O is saying, a wee dram from me for a great vPub, Roy. Great perspectives on the OSWAs. Thank you very, very much for your appreciation, Stevie O. Thank you for your generosity, Graham, and George as well. Sláinte to you all. Stevie, I know that you've been having a wee bit of sort of health challenges recently, and it resonates with me a lot as well. I had exactly what you're suffering for 10 years. I eventually burnt out. But if you've balance issues, big guy, it's impossible to live properly. I wish you the very best, and I hope you get better soon. All right. I think I've made my point. Not sure I did. But it's time to roll into the quiz at the end regardless. How are we doing for time? 11:30. Good stuff. We do have a wee quiz at the end. Of course we do. We always do. Please stay and hang out. 300 of you in just now. It's going to drop considerably. The quiz at the end is intended to be fun. So even though I'm going to present you with a pretty challenging, crunchy, difficult quiz once more, I'm hoping that there is something that piques your curiosity, something you can pick up, something you can learn a wee bit from, or something that can just make you feel good because it's something that you actually know. If you struggle a wee bit, you can lean on the community, you can pick up from each other. There's lots of strategies to get through it. Just want to point out that there's a lot of whiskey in the glass tonight. A bit like Roddy and I were talking about last week. I don't need to finish all of these. I just don't. I've got the point across. I've got what I wanted out of the drams. We can all do better with a wee bit of a spittoon from time to time, and I think that might be what happens tonight. Listen, I wish you all the very best for the quiz at the end. Should be a crunchy one, should be a good one. It's definitely going to be a competitive one. Justin Rand saying, finally here for the quiz, exciting. Justin, it's far too late for you where you are, but maybe you've got a day off tomorrow, buddy. It's great to have you in. Julian Rickman is saying, where is Menno? Menno tends to join for a quiz at the end when it's a community gig or a party or a season end or something like that. But I hear you, Julian. It's been a wee while since we've had him on, so we should warm up the Menno sometime soon. Jimmy Legg is saying normally 7:30 where the quiz starts. It's 11:30. Is madness. You can go to bed, Jimmy. You can go to bed and pick it up tomorrow, Sunday, whenever. Ginger Genius is saying had a Kilkerran 12 and 16 in the glass tonight. Great whiskies, but finished with an Arna George Hotel. Knocks them into oblivion. Try a wee vatting. Yeah, those Golden Promise Arnas are knockout. Absolutely knockout. Paul Brown is gifted 10 Aquavitae memberships out there. Thank you so much, Paul. Do you know what's good about the handing out the memberships is that a lot of people enjoy it and they stay. And I appreciate it. Thank you all so much for your support and keeping the vPub ad free. I hope you enjoy it. I don't have a day off tomorrow, says Justin, but I need this. I've been stressed recently. Oh dear. Well, here's to relieving the stress, big guy. I hope that whatever you score in the quiz, it does a wee bit of that. Good luck, everyone. Cheers, Justin. Question 1. Which of these brands have a year in the oh, my grammar is maybe giving away something here, my goodness. Which of these brands has a year in the 18th century embossed into their glass bottles? Is it A, Glasgow Distillery, B, Tobermory Distillery, or C, Glengarry Distillery? So which of those brands has a date in the 18th century, so 17 something, embossed into their glass bottles? A, Glasgow, B, Tobermory, C, Glengarry. Anthony Lambert, you've been around here long enough, my friend, to be able to spot the patterns. Have a wee look once more, my friend. Have a wee look again. What's on screen right now? The Alchemist Sev is saying might be all of them. But right underneath, Sevi, Road to Drum Alberto is saying a cheeky banana skin to start. Yes. Embossed, the slippery word. Yes, it's not debossed. It's not printed. It's not screen printed. It's embossed. Your Uncle Vanya, well spotted. Slippery as well. It is, of course, Tobermory, Glengarry, and that's it. Glasgow, 1770 is the brand, but it's not embossed on the glass. It's printed on the label. Tobermory and Glengarry both declare 1798 for Tobermory and Glengarry 1797, isn't it? Wee banana skin, just to remind everyone that sometimes all the answers will be correct for the opener so that nobody goes home with a donut, but the banana skin's there for you to take extra care and watch out. Question 2, which of these distilleries has been nominated in this year's Online Scotch Whisky Awards, surprisingly for the first time? Which of these appears for the first time? Is it A, Lochlee, surprisingly, B, Glengyle, surprisingly, or C, Torrevake, surprisingly? Lochlee with their single malt, Glengyle with the Kilkerran single malt, or Torrevake with their own Torrevake peaty single malt? Berry Freeze is saying, quote Roy, a wee banana skin to remind you that sometimes I'm not that nice. Come on, I give you a 66% chance of getting that one right. It's not the 100% I often give, but I often warn you with that it might not always be like that. Okay, Lochlee have been nominated in the Best New Distillery category before, as has Torrevake, but this is the first time, sorry, I made a mistake there. It's the first time that Glengyle, Kilkerran and Lochlee have been nominated. Lochlee in the Best New Distillery and Glengyle in the Best Distillery. But Torrevake has been nominated before. So there you go. I'm giving you a 66% chance on the second one as well. I hope that might make up for the fact I never gave you 100% on the opener. So if you answered A or B for that one, take your point. Question 3. Which of these distilleries changed its name in the 1970s, only to change it back again in the 1990s? This is quite a tricky one, actually. A, Glenlivet, B, Tobermory, or C, Breval? See, this is tricky until you see the answers. This distillery changed its name in the 70s, but then changed it back in the 1990s. I think Sevi's just going to go through the entire quiz tonight, answering Jura. I don't care. It's just good to have him in. Make them all banana skins, please, is Ted Brooks. Graham Young is saying, Whiskey Jason, cheers, buddy. Whiskey Jason's in. I've not seen him tonight. Lachlan McKenzie is here. Graham Fraser is in playing along. Graham, you can play the full 10 questions tonight. I do not believe that the picture question is yours. I think it's one of mine tonight. I don't even remember what the picture question is now. Oh, wow. I think it's an ass hat. Okay, let's go in. I think there should have been a banana skin here. Should have been a banana skin here. Breval seems to be the popular answer. Jimmy's asking, is the picture question a picture of him? No. Glenlivet was founded on Minmore Farm, but it's had the name Glenlivet, of course, forever. It's never changed. Tobermory was founded as Lechaig, changed its name in the 70s to Lechaig, and then back again in the 1990s when Burn Stewart took over to Tobermory. Braes of Glenlivet is the brand from Breval, but it's never had a distillery name change. Oh dear. Oh dear. Question 4, spot the fake in this list of Glenmorangie's Tale of series. I was very careful not to slip up and give you a spoiler on this one tonight as we were talking about it earlier. But there's a brand new Bill Lumsden, Gillian MacDonald release out as part of the Tale of series. Quite interesting whiskies that have come out from this in the past, some quite tasty ones too. But as I said, it's an on-age statement at £76, a wee bit pricey. It is what it is. A, what's the fake? Glenmorangie's Tale of Tokyo. B, Glenmorangie, Tale of Ice Cream. Or C, Glenmorangie, Tale of Summer. Which of those is not true? Should be a wee Dramface logo on this. Dramface carried the story this week. Glenmorangie Tale of Tokyo is fake. Glenmorangie Tale of Ice Cream is fake. Or Glenmorangie Tale of Summer is fake. Tale of Cake, Tale of the Forest, Tale of Winter. Okay, I can tell you all. Greg is saying C and not B, as weird as it seems. Spot on, Greg. Tale of Summer. Tale of Ice Cream was released this week, and Tale of Tokyo is a past release. Into the picture question. It's tough quiz, challenging quiz. Please let it be fun for you. I don't want it to be horrible. We're clearly looking at a distillery here, and I've obscured the sign on that distillery. There's a wee asshat here, so you have to know the answer to two things to get this correct. So I'm asking you, which of these is true? Of this distillery, it features floor maltings. B, its bestseller is a 15-year-old. Or C, it has a warehouse located below sea level. The distillery that you're looking at, A, it features its own floor maltings. B, its bestseller is a 15-year-old. Or C, it has a warehouse below sea level. Ginger Genius is saying, if the quiz is meant to be fun, why am I sweating? Well, maybe sweating is fun. If I made it easy, if I made it simple, there would be no celebration, there would be no joy in getting a high score or that miraculous, elusive 10 out of 10, right? Had C and changed it to B, Hoyt is saying. Road to Dram Alberto is just saying, I'm following Graham Fraser. It's not a bad strategy, I have to tell you, Alberto. It's a very good strategy. I think Graham tends to hold his water and answer a wee bit late. Okay. Are we looking at a floor malting distillery, 15-year-old age statement official bottling with its bestseller distillery, or its warehouse below sea level? Sweating is not fun, says Jimmy, like fat guys. No. All right, I can tell you, you're looking at Dalwhinnie. Dalwhinnie, right smack in the middle of the map. It does not have its own floor maltings. It's one of the highest distilleries in Scotland that does not have a warehouse below sea level, but its bestseller is a 15-year-old. And interestingly, it's Diageo's 5th best-selling single malt whiskey. Question 6. I was founded in the 1960s and I closed in the 1990s. After a reawakening once more in the 2000s, most of my releases today are non-age stated. My name translates to Mill on the Hill in English. Who am I? I am A, Tullibardine, B, Tamdhu, C, Tamnavulin. Who am I? Founded in the 60s, closed in the 90s, brought back to life in the 2000s. Core range of non-age stated, and my name translates to Mill on the Hill in English. Tullibardine, Tamdhu, Tamnavulin. Spot on, Jimmy Legg. He's saying this is a bit of a dram face. Yep, a little bit of I am a distillery. Making it into the quiz at the end. I'm allowed to merge my concepts a little bit, am I not? That's okay. Everybody kicking this out the park, nailing it because of the Gaelic. Potentially, if Lagavulin is hollow by the mill, Vulin is mill, and then Tamnavulin Well, that would suggest that Tam is hill. Well, yeah, Tam Do is Black Hill. So absolutely. Tam na Bhulan is Mill on the Hill. Non-age statement, core releases, founded in the 60s, closed, reawakened in the 2000s. Question 7. Arc, Star, Bake, Hell, and Van are all snippets cut from the names of which country's largest malt distilleries? Where are we? A, we're in Australia. B, we're in Germany. Or C, we're in Taiwan. So what I've done is from the names of these distilleries, I've just cut. They're not anagrams. They are snippets. They are still in order. Arc, Star, Bake, Hell, and Van. What are we looking at? Halen. Van Halen, says Sebi. Julian Rickman is saying Menno quizzes are easy. Oh, no, I suspect that. Well, it'll be interesting. Maybe we should get the boy back again sooner rather than later. Most of you have got this one. Sounds like members of an 80s metal band. That's right, Hoyt. Arc, Star, Bake, Hell, and Van. Arc, Lark, Star, Starward, Bake, Bakery Hill, Hell, Helliers Road, and Van, Sullivan's Cove. We are in Australia. Well done, everyone. Well done. 8. Which of these distilleries has won 4 OSWAs, all with the exact same product? 4 OSWAs. A, Springbank Distillery, B, Wild Turkey Distillery, or C, Isle of Arran Lochranza Distillery. Which of those distilleries have won 4 OSWAs? Now, bear in mind, we've only had 3 winners' ceremonies. That should help you. 4 OSWAs, all with the exact same product. Splitting the crowd, Trevor Hedge. Good to see you, Trevor. That might be a new name. He's saying B. Gene Kelly's saying A, while Chris Pollack says C. Really, really splitting the crowd, this one. Justin Wan is screaming trifecta. James Morgan is suggesting that it's rare breed. Either Springer or Aaron 10, says Sevi the Alchemist. Wow. 4 OSWAs have been won with the exact same product from, and I can tell you that it is Springbank Distillery has won distillery 3 times. That's their best performance. Wild Turkey has won with the rare breed 3 times. That's its best performance. Isle of Arran Lochranza has won best value 3 years in a row, and it also won best Scotch in 2021. It won 4 with the exact same product. If you visit Isle of Arran Distillery in Lochranza, go into their shop there on the wall, they've got 4 OSWAs, all for the exact same product. And this year, they'll pick up a trifecta to join it. Question 9, second from last. Good luck, everyone. 2 more to go. Malt distilling has returned to Inverness with Ullavesh Distillery. Before that, which distillery was closest to Inverness city centre by distance? Yeah, that's a brutal quiz. I suspect that a lot of you will tune out of the quiz next week. Maybe I'll try to bring the quiz a wee bit more back into reach, because this is a banana skin and an ass hat. But it's celebrating distilling back in Inverness. Before Ullavesh existed, which out of these 3 distilleries was Inverness's closest distillery by distance? A, Tomatin, B, Glenord, or C, Royal Bracla? Justin Wan is saying Glenvor. Yep. Could have been Glenalbin, of course. Milburn, one of the Inverness 3, right? But no, they're all gone. Ullavesh has brought it back again. Jimmy Legacy and Active Distillery. Oh, yep, there you go. Tomatin is active, Glenord is active, Royal Bracla is active. Ullavesh is active too. There's no product from it yet. It's not 3 years old yet. Despite the fact that there's an asshat and a banana skin in there, I am being kind to most of you, unless you've suggested tomatin. But Glenord and Royal Bracla are pretty much almost within a few hundred yards of each other, equidistant from the centre of Inverness. Tomatin is the fastest to drive through because you just head south on the A9, so you'd get there quicker, but it's a bit longer, 19 miles. But if you've answered B for Glenord or C for Royal Bracla, you take a point into the final asshat at the end, and it is an asshat. Let's see how we're doing. Oh, it's brutal tonight. I can see it's brutal. Trevor Hedge on a 7 along with Alberto Road to Dram. Jimmy Legg on a 6. Gabriel Welding on an 8. David Brave on a 7. Lachlan on a 7. Josh Kennedy, another new name, Josh? I hope so. On a pass mark 5. Klitz on a 7. Daisy is in. Good to see you, Daisy, with a 6 out of 9, a pass mark clearly. Lassie Hort Otsman is in with a 7. Fantastic, Lassie. Good to see you. Sharmilla Suze, that looks like a new name. Sharmilla, nice to have you in, on a 7. Nicholas on a 5 pass mark. Ian Bruce 6. Donald Pask on a 6. Pete Head on a 6. Good to see you, Frank. Chris Pollack 7. Danny Hibbington 6. It's just jumping all over the place. What's going on? Sorry. Can this one be worth 4 points, says Rob Smith. Yes, Rob. It's your quiz. You're only playing against yourself. Absolutely it can. Camper Van Travels in Dora on an 8. Fantastic. Love the name. Love the YouTube channel as well. Is that legit? Is that who you are? Camper Van Travels in Dora? I think it's a YouTube channel, right? Go to channel. It is indeed. I've clicked on that name before. 8 is a fantastic score. Well done. Let's see how you got on for your asshat at the end. Ardnamurchan Distillery is located now. Ardnamurchan's not had a lot of mention tonight. I just want to notice. Just want everyone to notice. Distillery is located on the peninsula. Is the most westerly point on the UK mainland. Ardnamurchan Peninsula is the most westerly point on the UK mainland. But how many Scotch malt distilleries lie west of it? How many Scotch malt distilleries lie west of Ardnamurchan Distillery? Is it about the same as the number of A, Scottish distilleries beginning with Glen, B, operational years for Kilchoman, or C, the age of the oldest age-stated Ardnamurchan released to date? So asshats, you always need to know the answer to 2 things to get it right. How many distilleries are west of Ardnamurchan? Okay, you're guessing here. Of course you are. Very few of you are going to know that. So you have to lean on your knowledge, your instinct, your intuition. You have to lean on your peers, your fellow barflies in the lounge. Do whatever you can. Beg, steal, borrow, whatever it takes. The number of distilleries lying west of Ardnamurchan Distillery is about the same as the number of Scottish distilleries beginning with Glen, B, the operational years of Kilchoman, or C, the age of the oldest age-stated Ardnamurchan released to date. Danny Hebbington is saying, I'll guess C. Jimmy, the wording of the question got Matthew Reinke. Ebhead Rolfe is saying B. Grain of Malt is saying Jeebus. Good for you. Josh Kennedy is saying B. Nicholas is saying B. Sid Martin is saying B. Sid, so good to have you in. Julian Rickman is saying B. Ginger Genius is saying B. Stevie O is saying B. Dave the Brave is saying B. Just jumped there. Was that Dave the Brave I wrote? That's a new name as well, Dave the Brave. Chris Pollack on a B. Dornpass Whiskey Tim on a B. DVDW on a B. Trevor Hedge on a B. Any more Bs? Any more Bs for Barfly? Gregor Dykman is in on a B. Good to see you, Gregor. Sugar Kitty on a B. Anyone else on a B? There are 26 Scotch malt distilleries beginning with Glen. There are 19 years now since 2005 that Kilchoman has been in operation. And the oldest Ardnamurchan released today is 10. I can tell you that there are 19 distilleries lie west of Ardnamurchan. All of the Islay distilleries, all of the island distilleries. 19 in total. Now, of course, that includes Harris and Benbecula and Tyree. There are various it depends where you go. If you go to the Scotch Whisky Association, lots of things are missing. I guess that they don't prioritise distilleries that are not members and things like that. But if you count from all the sources, you can count 19 distilleries. So there you go. Pretty brutal. I suspect there are not any 10 out of 10s tonight. For that, I apologise. Sid Martin on a 9. Amazing. Gabriel Welding on a 9. That is truly amazing. Fantastic. So close. How's Graham Fraser doing tonight? Justin Wan has bought me another dram. So generous, Justin. Thanks, Aquaviti, for the session tonight. Exactly what I needed. The vPub is magical. The crowd is magical. Can't emphasize how grateful I am. Justin, I know you, fella, and I can't emphasize how grateful I am for you too. Sorry you've had a stressful week, and I hope the next week is a lot better for you, buddy. No need for you to be so generous to come out and hang out with us, but the appreciation and the kind words are very welcome. Cheers to you, Justin. Are we going to finish a vPub before midnight UK time? Not bad. Not bad at all. We might just about make it. Listen, I hope that you are enjoying the OSWAs. I hope you do go ahead and vote. I hope if there's any chance that you can be in Glasgow on the 28th, which is a week on Saturday, that 3 p.m. from the Pot Still, 4:30 p.m. from Rishi's Restaurant in Bath Street. You have to book that with me first. And then afterwards, from 7 to 7:30 p.m., hopefully somewhere around that time, we'll start making our way into the Bon Accord, the world-famous Bon Accord in Glasgow's North Street. We'll all gather there for the rest of the night and enjoy some just genuine, good, warm, comforting, much-needed barfly fun. I can't wait. So looking forward to it. Thank you, Roy, says Jerry Miller. See you next week. Looking forward to it, Jerry. Can't wait to welcome you, buddy. Alistair Gray saying, so glad you enjoyed that Jura Aquaviti. My bottle arrives tomorrow, but off to Brazil for work. We'll crack it open when I'm home in Slantia. I did enjoy it very, very much. I'm looking forward to getting to know it a lot more. Never seen the like, says Alan Smith. Thanks, Roy. Thank you for joining tonight, Alan. Ginger Genius is saying, loved it as always. Night all. Chris Pollock is saying, thanks for another entertaining vPub. We're all here for the community, says Chris. Thank you so much, buddy. And Pete Head is saying, and with that, I'm calling it a day. I'm going to hit the sack. Thanks as always for organising Aquaviti. And to all of you, I hope to see you next time and even better live in Glasgow. Slancheva, Pete Head. I can't wait for a hug from one of the tallest guys in the community and one with the warmest smiles as well. Hellswood, she's coming up as well. Fantastic. Looking forward to seeing you and Andy, Helen. Thanks for the fab laid back vPub. See you next weekend. Thank you, Helen. Looking forward to it. Jimmy's saying, can't buy you a dram here. My laptop knows where it is. Don't worry about it, Jimmy. We'll be buying each other drams very soon, buddy. Gene Kelly saying, you never disappoint. Thanks for another great vPub. Gene, we'll see you in November. You and your pals, and I can't wait. Dunnerpass Whiskey's bought me a wee dram. Dying moments to say, next 2 weeks off, brutal. To Phil and Deepa, second one. That means you might not be in here for the next couple of weeks, buddy. But Tim, thanks for the dram, buddy, and I'll see you whenever you can make it. Thank you. Click on that and click on that and that. Graham Fraser saying, thanks, Roy. I didn't see your score, Graham, tonight. I hope you did well. Do record. Good to see you. And Mikey's saying, see you next Saturday. It's been an entertaining evening today. Good job. Thank you, Mike. Klitz is saying, thanks for a great vPub. Great fun as always. And Graham Young is saying, cheers, hugs, and drams soon, barflies. Not too ranty tonight, I felt. I mean, I hardly used scientific data to back things up, but I'm kind of interpreting the way things as the way I see them. Anyway, until I raise a glass with you in Glasgow, until I see you again here next week, whatever comes in between, I wish you all the very best going forward. I look forward to welcoming you here again next Thursday night, and until then, I'll remind you all that you're very dearly loved. Slancheva.